Tesla factory progress is always exciting, always amazing, and they are never, ever finished. Sometimes they get to a point where they run out of land, and that's the closest we ever see to something being complete. Well, today we're going to have a conversation about where we're at with all the factories, and Jon Twigge is joining me because he figured if he suggested this as a topic, he could trick me into giving him his own private Ask Me Anything where he could dig deep and get all the answers that he's wanted for so many years. Let's find out what's going on with all the factories Tesla has around the world. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza.
Brian, wonderful to be back. Thank you.
Was that pretty accurate description of what's going on?
Yeah, that was fine. Essentially, I'm trying to get my own back and ask you some questions, if that's all right.
I'm ready.
What really set me thinking is, and I've seen you talking about the long range, not the long range, the longer Model Y, 6 seats. And I've seen people asking questions, does that replace the Model X? So we know Fremont is not the most efficient factory that Tesla's got.
Correct.
But I've also heard they do R&D. Overnight they can do things because the lines are only running in the day. We also know there's not as much profit. But then I started to think, well, what's the Model S for? We know there's not much profit in either model. What if the Roadster comes along and takes the Halo model? Could they lose both? Could they free up Fremont to do other things?
So my theory has been, because they originally were running 3 shifts of Model S and X production. Well, originally S and X were separate lines, and then they consolidated into one, and they scaled it back some more to the point where now they are running just one shift. And I've had a lot of people ask me, why don't they just, get rid of it? And when will they get rid of it? And to me, the answer is when they can no longer justify one shift, because the space has value, but it has limited value. When you say that Fremont is not the most efficient, it is by far the least efficient. It looks less like a house and more like a bunch of sheds cobbled together. That's not ideal for the space constraints. We've seen from Ford retooling factories, Toyota retooling factories, that once they do 1 or 2, they give up and say, okay, no more retooling. We're going to greenfield. We're going to start from scratch. Because
but the future of Tesla will not be huge, big, traditional car manufacturing lines.
No, but it will be clean space. You still want the ability to put your pillars where you want them, to put your roof as high as it needs to be, and to have access from the directions you need it. Because if you're going to be selling 1 million of something and you can save just $50 at the assembly level, that's $500 million over 10 years. It starts to add up.
What about manufacturing research?
So
a Sportster line?
We'll get there.
By Optimus, maybe?
We'll get there. Cool. Oh, Optimus would be a good use case for S and X because the production is so slow. They could make just a second shift running Optimus with 10, 20 engineers. And by morning, what if you only made 5 cars? Who cares? It's fine. So then what I said is one reason they might not be canceling it is they may be planning to add the Roadster to that line. You could make 3 cars on one line. Why not? And if you were to take the sum total of SX and Roadster volume, it would justify it.
So and that is the space, so it's largely empty now, is it, if there's only one line?
No, because they consumed one shift.
Not one line.
Yes. And the space is a mess. It's not a straight line. It's a mess. It's a real vestigial organ in the middle of a much healthier organism. So what we're looking at, one thing I've heard people say is just scrap the line entirely and use it to build more 3 or Y or something else.
No.
The space is just terribly laid out. Use it to do unboxed. Well, you need unboxed parts coming in from different angles. I don't think they have the width on that line to do that. But if they were to keep it for R&D purposes, for getting Optimus all the way up to speed, what would happen? Yeah, they would add a second shift, just Optimus and trainers, get that all the way up to speed, and then move them to first shift. move those workers to 3 and Y and other high speed lines where you really need the kind of efficiency that an Optimus is at that point not quite able to match.
And that,
There,
I guess it
yeah,
doesn't matter how long it takes. It's a dedicated space.
it's
If
a
it takes
dedicated space.
if it
Yeah,
takes 6 months, that's wonderful. But if it takes 2 years, if Optimus takes longer than expected to get there, it
you're
doesn't matter. They can
still,
go flat out.
yeah, it's in the R&D budget, not the
Yeah.
manufacturing budget. It's just that
An Optimus making Optimus. That's not going to take a lot of space, I guess.
we don't know. I have
Yeah.
seen people say, well, the reason they didn't build Mexico is because they need to design it around Optimus. And I say, no, no, no. Optimus is designed around humans. If a
Yeah.
human can do it, Optimus can do it. There should not be different space requirements, or you've done one of the two things wrong. Of course, you could build a factory where it's deeply uncomfortable for humans, but that leads to inefficiencies, that leads to
Mm.
injuries. You don't want to do that. And in most countries, there's guidelines. Your permits say you have to have a certain width for walking areas.
And it removes the possibility if a robot does go slightly rogue, you can't get a person to come in and replace them temporary to fix the
Not
problems, to do
efficiently.
all sorts of things. Yeah.
Yes, not efficiently. So I hope that answers your question on Fremont.
So yes, it is probably best suited. Either they scrap it completely if S and X go, if Roadster and everything else can be doing Austin. So how much space is there left in Austin? What else can we do? Have we got a new
Sure.
robotaxi line?
Yes, the robotaxi line is very small.
Mm.
As explained, Joe Tegmeyer, who does the drone flights in Austin, had a chance to get a VIP tour last July
Mm.
in 2024, where he was allowed to walk anywhere he wanted in the building, no cameras, no recording, but he was allowed to go anywhere and ask anything, and he had someone senior with him who knew answers and could answer them. He, of course, had to sign an NDA, so the overwhelming majority of what he knows, he's unable to share. What he did share is that Cybercab production is much smaller than we expected. It takes up a very limited amount of space on one floor in one corner of the building. But what Joe was saying is that a good 30% of the building at least is up for grabs. Whether it's, and I don't know if that means it's completely empty or if it's currently being underutilized. I know at one point they were storing battery packs in there or castings in there. Those are things you could store in a less in a better place, a more realistic,
Yeah.
efficient, space efficient place than what they're doing now.
And it's coming back to me that the other argument I've heard about Mexico was that if they were going to do the Cybercab, they wanted the engineers that were already in
Mhm.
Texas to be available and not have to move and be traveling all over.
Yes, and that is a very real concern. You
Mm.
want your engineers as close to the line as possible. When I got to see the SNX line in Fremont, the engineers are right there at the edge of it. And when they ran out of space, they put in a little mezzanine with more desk space for the engineers to be right there on the line.
Yeah, that's one of the very few experiences, because I'm over here in England, but I've visited the opening day of Manchester's sales and repairs centre. And in the shop, they've literally got desks in the corner.
Hmm.
So the people answering queries can literally look across and say, "Oh, I can see your car. That's where it's up to," instead of passing messages. So the same principle is being applied even locally.
Yes, it is how they operate, and it makes the answer much closer. But to your point, it makes it so that it doesn't become a game of telephone. I mean, I can pass a message to him. I might forget if something breaks down after I pass him the message, the
Yeah.
whole communication chain is lost. But I could also just yell over and ask Dale if he's done yet.
It's
Maybe
only
he
100
is.
yards from one end to the other. They literally go across,
Yeah.
ask, come back and answer. I
Yeah.
have spoken to your engineer, which
Yes.
is much better than we'll call you back next week. Yeah. So if
Yeah.
we get Cybercab working, all unboxed, wonderful in Texas, and it doesn't use a lot of space, have we got room over in Berlin, China?
Berlin's interior, I am less clear, but as I understand, yes, there is certainly enough space to do Cybercab, but probably enough space to do a whole additional model. I don't see why they couldn't do Model 3 in Europe. there are reasons they would want to, both to circumvent the China tariffs into Europe, but also the US tariffs into Canada. Right now, a Model 3 in Canada costs substantially more than a Model Y because in Canada, they are the only country in the world I'm aware of that has gotten all three Model Ys. They started by getting US, they moved to getting them from China, they went back to US models, and now they're getting them from Berlin. That's interesting. And thank goodness they're made with at least the majority of parts harmonized across the supply chain. Otherwise, it'd be very tricky. I've got a 22. Yeah, what month to know which parts you're getting? So they
Yeah.
would. So Berlin has excess capacity. Austin has excess capacity.
Yeah, I think China's maybe fuller, but they can quickly throw another factory up in China, can't they? I guess.
Yes, and that's exactly it. In China, I saw people saying, "Well, they'll never build megapacks there. They don't have the space." And I said, "The space is not the issue. They just won't put it
China's,
inside the building."
yeah,
And sure enough, they said, "Oh, by the way, we're breaking ground today, and it's a mile away or something very reasonable." And you don't have to have it inside the same facility, especially if you need to move engineers between the two locations. That's a very short distance.
yeah.
It's not like General Motors where they've got their ivory towers in Detroit, and I don't know if they're still using those, but this is the philosophy that the big three have always done. We have the ivory towers where we keep the ivory tower people, and the workers are scattered out over a tri-state area. And if it's Friday and it's noon and you need to go walk the line for some reason, you're going to put it off till Monday. Well, guess what? If you and Tesla both needed to walk the line at noon on Friday, Tesla already did it, and you haven't even finished lunch. So good luck on Monday afternoon, I guess, when you finally get there.
Well, of
Big
course,
difference. The
a
what?
the answer is a boring company tunnel between sites.
Yes. Well, those are also very expensive, though. And I've
Yes,
seen people
relatively speaking.
suggesting boring tunnels for purposes that don't make sense, like long, well, they should build a boring tunnel all the way from Austin to Dallas or Houston.
No,
And I
no, no.
say,
I mean,
no, no, no.
you want to escape the heavy traffic and then just
Right.
go on the freeway because we know
Yes.
it's the junctions, it's the intersections, it's where the traffic builds up in the cities that are the problem. If you can escape that, I mean, a robo taxi, if they build a loop in LA, which can be chaos on a holiday weekend, you can get a robo taxi from your home through that loop,
Hmm.
jump on the freeway, back in the tunnel at the other end for Vegas, right to your hotel door.
Yes. Yes. And you would have to get all the way outside of the greater Los Angeles
Yeah.
area, especially on a busy weekend. But yeah, they could, but they wouldn't, for example, it wouldn't make sense to build a loop, a boring tunnel all the way from Los Angeles to Vegas. That's
No, it's
cost
open
prohibitive.
road.
It's too many miles.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we covered for 3 and Y. If they
Hmm.
want to keep S and X going and a roadster maybe at Fremont,
Hmm.
we can build Optimus almost anywhere, probably in the existing factories.
Yes.
I guess Semi is about to go into production, early production. We might get a few coming out and more production next year. That would be harder to put somewhere else, I guess. It's going to take more room up.
Yes. But why would you only build it in the US?
That's the
If
question. You couldn't get it in Berlin, probably. Like, probably not enough room to put it in. They'd need a new factory.
So Berlin has expansion permits that will take
Yeah.
them to the north edge of the property. And because it's Berlin and Berlin has an activist culture. That's just
Yes.
in their DNA. It's who they are. Just like how in Michigan, car shows are every single week in the same location because we're
Wow.
car people. It's what we do.
Yeah.
Little neighborhood car shows that happen every week.
Yeah.
It's who they are. So when they got the permit to cut down the trees, they while the ink was still wet, they cut the trees down because we're not going to leave that door open for appeal down the road. We've got the permission, do it. They've already started building the transit center. They have a preliminary approval to build a factory there. We had been led to believe it would be for a compact car. So maybe that would be a Cybercab thing, but it doesn't have to be. And there are other preliminary expansion approvals that are in place. They have the land area to build a semi factory should they choose to do that.
Now
And
I'm going to get confused here. I've lost track of compact cars.
Right.
Do we know the answer?
Nope.
Is there a compact car? Is there a shorter Y? Is
We don't
there,
know. We
or
don't
is it
know.
what? Is it the one without the nice seats without the glass roof?
I showed a picture of a spy shot of a Model Y, and I said that's not the longer one because the C pillar is long on the longer one, is much
Yeah.
taller on the slightly longer one. And a viewer wrote to me and said, "Oh, Brian, you almost got it. If you look, that C pillar is shorter than usual. This might be a stubby Model Y. This might be one that is more like a European car where you've got your second row full, but not a ton of space behind it, just a reasonable amount of space behind it. So it could be a slightly smaller Y. I don't know if that's accurate. We don't have enough data yet to make a determination, but that would still be built on the existing Model Y line.
Yeah.
Um, but the original permit just said compact, or that was the understanding at the time. So I don't know if it would be a space for Cybercab or some new model, or if they would just change plans entirely. But the thing with semi is you want something that big and that heavy built as close to where it's going to be used as possible.
Yeah.
And you want it. Tesla loves making their products as domestically as they can, both because of shipping reasons outbound, but also inbound logistics for all the parts and the tariffs and the trade and all that. And a shorter product pipeline is better. If you can, one thing Tesla does uniquely among automakers is when they buy parts, it's net 30 is a very common amount of time in which to pay for something you purchased, meaning we'll ship it as soon as you receive it. The clock is ticking. As long as you pay it by day 30, there's no interest. Tesla uniquely can build the car, get it out, and paid for within those 30 days, meaning
So
their
they've got
their
positive cash flow in that time.
their
So
flooring cost is
yeah,
either zero or technically slightly positive,
and
rather
of course,
than.
if you were to export a few of those semis to Europe, you've got
Mhm.
a logistical challenge of charging, haven't you? If they go all out to build a charging network for those semis across the
Mm.
US and put a lot of them out, that's reasonable. But I suppose you can put a few in on major routes for major customers to trial them. But
I think it's more likely that they would do the same thing they're doing in the US, which is start by giving
yeah,
them, selling them to customers who can charge at their base of operations,
yeah.
so that it's, out and back home the same day kind of transport rather than, transcontinental or intercontinental,
And of course,
intracontinental.
that charging will be, is it behind the meter they call it? So presumably they can
Hmm.
get them installed much faster than uh, grid connections, all
Yes.
those kind of things.
Yes. And it'll be cheaper juice because you're not paying any middleman for
Yeah.
DC fast charging. You're just paying whatever your industrial or commercial rate is.
Now, I've seen talk of Pepsi putting in new chargers in a few locations.
Yes.
Are they putting megapacks in to support them?
I don't know the answer to that,
Yeah.
but it's very possible they are not. It is possible that they wouldn't need to because it's likely all their equipment runs daytime and not at all at night, which
So
would
they've
mean
got
that they have
spare
the
capacity.
capacity at night to charge.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've then got how many models in which factories? Cybercab, how fast will that roll out? It's going to depend on cities. Are we due the first ones at the end of this year, the pre-production ones that we might see?
Here's the beauty of Cybercab. Once we can get rid of the safety observer,
Yeah.
there's nothing holding you back from deploying Cybercab. But
Well,
the
I was
real,
thinking about that as well. You could actually do it even with a safety driver. Now, I know you're only going to have one seat.
yeah,
I don't mean at any scale, but to trial them, because on the app you can tell it how many passengers, and if you
no,
only
that's true.
if you only need one, at
That's
least
true.
they can test the routes and make sure it charges. And that, of course, it's a new kind of charger, and go through that process of testing.
Well, the beauty of it is Tesla in the trial period would not be selling them. So if there is a huge problem, you and I might never know. They might just roll it back to the factory, crush
Mm.
it, and put a new one in its place. We'd never know. So the warranty cost on in-house products is of course zero because there's no warranty. It's your product. It's yours. You fix it. You're the whole thing. So I imagine, of course, in the beginning it would be very slow. Got to make
Yeah.
sure the car works, get in all
Yeah.
your test miles and all that. And then as it ramps up, uh, once it's time, I could see them selecting a market and saturating it 1 week at a time.
Now, of course, we know they've told us several times that most taxi journeys have got one or two people, but
Hmm.
that's not all of them. Will we see
Correct.
long 6-seat Model Ys? They could get quite a few in big cities because people do come in groups.
Yes, I would say absolutely yes. My question is, will anyone be allowed to sit in the front seat where the wheel is? And my guess is no, because the human instinct to grab the wheel would be too powerful.
Yes.
If you've so that
So
means it
in
would
that,
be
in that case, it's actually more important because the 6-seat will give you 4 seats as
4 or 5.
opposed to a four
I mean, you
seat,
might be able to sit in the front too, but I don't know the answer to that. But yeah, it
right?
would be four instead of two, or instead of
Which is a big
well,
improvement,
well, it'd be four instead of
essentially.
three because the rear of the current Model Y holds three. So it would be one more seat.
Yeah,
But at some
yeah.
point, that wheel will either be blocked or gone or disabled. So a vehicle built to the Model Y L form factor would be a 5 or 6 seater.
Mm.
And so, well, yes, but that third row is tricky to get into. All third rows are tricky to get into. That's just how it is. Unless you're in like a Cadillac Escalade or something of that size, a Lincoln Navigator, the third rows are always.
But Tesla are good at software. If you say, well, we've got 6 people coming,
Mhm.
there can just be a little checkbox just pops up that says back seats are slightly, is it children? Is it young people? Are they accessible? You're not
Right,
pensioners.
right, right. And that's actually a very easy solution. But my
Yeah.
solution has always been I know what I need, and it's
Yes.
on me as a customer to understand what I'm getting.
Well,
And
that's,
when I,
that's effectively what I'm saying. It puts a
yeah,
message up saying accessibility to back seats might not be ideal.
sure, easy.
Choose and
In
choose.
Mexico, when I would take Uber XL, it was always this, and I forget the name of it now, but it was a little station wagon, a Toyota branded, but not built. It might have been a Hyundai or a Daihatsu or something. Toyota branded station wagon that had a third row with to allow for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total passengers plus the
Mm.
driver. So a 7 seater, and it was tight. But I had little kids and I understood that, and that's just how it works.
So the bigger picture question, we're starting to see different size models, 6 seats, possibly compact, Cybercab 2 seats, semi going to start coming through. The factories they've got now, can they do most of what they want?
Yes. What they have now, Texas and Berlin have enough surplus capacity that, yes, in Shanghai, they might need an additional factory should they uh, introduce RoboCab, Cybercab, or Semi. And they might build one for both, or they might build them side by side. But Shanghai is the only market that has a factory that is always tapped out. And
Yeah.
while they can eke out more efficiency, they can't eke out enough efficiency to build a whole additional line of anything.
And megapack factories are very quick to put up, relatively
Very quick to,
speaking.
yes. Well, yes, they are in production within a year, as opposed to a car factory, which can take more like two.
And of course, they're going to use a huge number of batteries. So they're going to be balancing battery supply with factories, grid connections. Presumably, they'd be putting another factory up as soon as they need it.
The trick with the batteries becomes where do you get the cells? I don't
Yeah.
understand. They've got the new partnership with LG in the US to provide stationary batteries, uh,
Yeah.
but it's not enough batteries. And they've got the new LFP factory of their own in Reno.
Yeah.
It's not enough battery. They're still going to be heavily reliant on imported cells. So I'm not sure why a second factory in the US, but I'm sure they've got a plan. And the reality is the margin is so tremendous that it would only have to run for a couple of years to pay off the entire facility. And that includes the equipment, which you could just package up and ship somewhere else if you needed to. So,
We know that Elon is the master of looking into the future and spotting the bottlenecks.
mhm.
They must have awareness of where everything's going to fit together, even if we don't necessarily know. They must have ideas.
Yes. All right. Well, John, I want to thank you for asking me all these questions and making me have these mental exercises. Keeps the old brain nice and smooth. No, wait. Maybe I got that wrong. Guys, in the comments, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? What should I have addressed? All of these questions and so much more I will look at and maybe think about. Everybody else, like, subscribe, do all that. You can follow Jon Twigge on X. He's a lot of fun. Clearly, I think so. So everybody else, stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you, clever robots. Perhaps at a factory. And if you do work at one of these factories, definitely get in touch with me.
Thank you, Brian. Great to be here.